So now we're talking about the basics, and this is like the real simple basics of supply and demand. Um, so when we're talking about the supply and demand model, we are looking at what is termed competitive markets. When we talk about competitive markets, this is distinctly different from non-competitive markets. So for competitive, this is perfect competition, monopolistic competition. For non-competitive markets, that's oligopoly and monopoly. Uh, More distinction on those later when we do uh, different um, um market structures. So when we're talking about competitive markets, to say competitive markets for like the 15th time, we're talking lots of buyers and sellers. So many that it's hard to really comprehend how many there are. Think billions, millions, trillions. I know I didn't go in order there, but that's fine. So lots and lots of buyers and lots of sellers. So no individual, whether they be a consumer or producer, is going to affect this market. People working in mass affect the market, but individuals do not. So that is why supply and demand will describe this behavior. It's very much that sort of invisible hand that you'll hear every so often come up about economics, that the invisible hand will guide prices and production. That's the supply and demand model. There are some different elements of this model. You have the demand curve, that's the downward sloping one. You have the supply curve, that's the upward sloping one. You have the price, which is on the y-axis, the quantity, which is on the x-axis. Factors that shift both of those curves. So some things will shift demand, some things will shift supply, and that affects the equilibrium, which is the intersection of supply and demand. Now, an important part to remember is how that equilibrium shifts when the curves shift. We're going to do a lot of practice with this throughout the year, but especially over the coming weeks as we introduce demand first, shifting demand, and then supply, shifting supply, and then we'll put them both together. So for now, practice with that. On the next slide, um, there is a graph for you to practice with. So just label everything in here. Label demand, label supply, label equilibrium, um, label the axes, and that's it.